wanted to welcome Jordan to the interview. It's great to meet you.
Nice to
And
meet you too.
thank you. And I'm excited to talk to you about absolutely everything because God knows there's a ton of stuff going on. My first question to you is what how did you meet me? How did you find out who I was?
If you remember, it was from Philip Scott. He used to be called the Advice Show, and he's been around for some time. I think since like 2010 or so. I've only known about him since I think 2016, 2017. So going 3, 4 years. And at first, I'm not trying to make this about him, but at first I didn't agree with everything he said because, at the time I wasn't really going through anything. But then as he kept speaking on things, I'm like, man, some of this stuff I'm going through, like, man, this guy's right. Like, oh man. So I kept watching him.
So through Philip Scott's show, yeah, I did an interview with
Yeah.
him. He was kind enough to interview me. I'm kind of in a strange position as a white person doing this because on one hand, my show and everything I do is really geared towards white folks. I mean,
Yeah.
what do I know to teach a person who's Black, brown, or indigenous? I mean, I don't know. I don't live it. That'd be ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I feel a very strong sense of responsibility to educate other white people. But on the other hand, a lot of people who follow me are not white people. And so it's like, it's a kind of strange balance. It's more of like an art than a science. And I asked him to interview me because I need to get to white folks and I need to get to everybody because I kind of used up all my, let's just say I don't have too many more friends who are following me or white folks anymore because they left long ago because they're not comfortable with like hearing the word Black. It's like, or racism. So they kind of like left. So I have to kind of try to reach out to get the message that it's okay to talk about this. Oh my God, you will live okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's good. Because I consider systemic racism in America to be a crime against humanity. And that's my take. It's always been my take. And so it kind of scares people away because they're like, huh? Because we're so segregated. But anyway, a lot of my interviews are more like just chatting back and forth. But so you saw Philip, I have learned more from him. When I first listened to him, I was like, I agree with some things and it's not my place to agree or disagree.
Yes.
Who gives a shit what I think? I'm so white, I don't tell white people who are like, Black people how to think or what to feel. I don't judge them. That's how would I know what I'd feel, But some of the stuff, like he was like, really, like, you should have an African plan. You should have this. And I'm like, wow, that's really intense. And now I've kind of come full circle. I agree with them. A lot of stuff.
See, that's how I was too. Yeah.
It's like I just wasn't there. Like he asked me at the end of the interview, like, do you have hope? Do you think that Black and white people can live together? I'm like, yes, I do. And I got a lot of shit for that well, actually I've never looked at any of the comments, but somebody told me, oh, people are just bagging on you on the comments. They like hate you. And I was like, really? I just was me. So it was kind of.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. You are going to get that. I'm just going to explain it from since I'm Black. The reason why some people are going to say that is because, like you said before, you're white and so on and so forth. So you already know how that's going to go. Me personally, I'm like, hey, she came on. She didn't say nothing crazy or any sort of white supremacist thing. So I'm like, yo.
I kept my sheet in the closet, and all that. I put away my burning crosses and my swastikas. It's so funny because that's kind of how I'm more like you. Like I'll listen to the person and see what they have to say. And
that's the thing. I will give people a chance, but the moment they start talking something super crazy or something like just completely white supremacist related, and they're like, yeah, you should think like this, and I'm like, okay, we're done. Like I gave you your chance. I looked at all your stuff. Like we're done. Like I can't listen to this. This is crazy.
Yeah, you know what? This is so crazy. But I'm not like, obviously, since I'm a white person, I can't be the same way. But I've lost all faith in white folks. I'm probably more jaded than some Black people. I mean, it's just because like my personality, like I don't know how many times somebody can show me that they have no clue what they're talking about before I just think, I don't give the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Yes.
Never. I used to, when I was younger, give the benefit of the doubt that the person's not racist as hell and this, but now I do that.
I used to be. I used to be the same way. Oh, bad day. Now I'm like, man, this looks awfully similar to this experience I had, and this. I'm like, nah, there's no way. Like I'm done too. I've been that way for about a
I'm
couple
out.
of years now.
Yeah, me too, totally. And the thing is, that's a privilege I have because I work at home and I don't have to be, with the COVID now, it's like I don't have to see anybody.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
I used to, I think when I was younger, I kind of was living in my own like naivete, like, oh, I'll assume everyone's like good until otherwise. But now I do the opposite. And people are like, oh, you hate white people. I'm like, no, I'm a white people. How would I hate? Give me a
Yeah.
break. I don't hate white people. I just expect a little more, like, I'm sorry, certain standard.
So basically, like Phil and everybody else says, if you do for self and you're black, oh, you're racist and this and that. Like you care about your folks, you let people know, hey, stop killing us. Every time we have to do something where we come out and expose people for being racist or
Mhm.
doing something discriminatory based on our race, now all of a sudden we're the boogeyman, we're the bad guys. We need to stop what we're doing. But then you
Yeah.
see these people, these 45 supporters. I hate to say it, but I'm just going to let
Oh,
people
say
know,
it. I keep
like
really.
anytime they do something off the wall and they got their rifles everywhere and they're marching and they're basically doing the voter suppression and everything. Oh, they're practicing their First and Second Amendment rights. I'm like,
Oh,
what the
yeah,
hell
that's
are
it.
you guys talking about? But when it's us and we're not beating anyone or nothing, we're racist.
Oh, totally.
Gotcha. I understand exactly where they're coming from. Makes no damn sense. Gotcha. They're on that team white supremacy mess. I leave them alone. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, how is that going through the world like that? I mean, I know for me, it's different because I'm white. A lot of
Yeah.
people think I'm one of them. Like, it's really scary. Like, sorry to interrupt here. I was going to ask you a question. I'll like go up to them and they'll like be like, oh, come on over. Like when I did an interview with the Trump rally people, oh my God, they're like, come on over. They thought I was there for the rally. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I was going to tell them right off the bat, like, I'm not a Trump supporter. I feel, this, and that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you should keep my mouth shut. So I did this whole interview and they were like, come on over. Cause I look white, I'm like, wow, they thought I was like part of their clan. And so, yeah, how is that going through life like that? I mean, is it just normal?
You're talking about like with the Trump stuff or the racism in
Just
general?
racism in general, like just knowing that you don't know if the person you're talking to could be full of shit, faking it, or like,
So I got to start from the beginning.
heck, would you?
So I grew up in New Jersey. I was there for about 10 years, 1990 all the way up to 2000. And then I moved up to PA. So I was there for about 15 years, 2000 to 2015. Yeah. And then I moved up to Maine. So as you can see, I just keep going up and up and up.
The Canada will be next.
New Jersey, obviously, I was too young, but even then, from what all my memories were, I didn't deal with any racism there personally. It was a very diverse area, mostly black people and so on. PA, it was still pretty diverse. There was more white people, but it was still very diverse. It was like the tri-state area. I was
Mhm.
part of the Northeast PA and so on. And then I moved out and I went to Maine. Now, like he said, like Phil says, I'm going to keep referring back to him because
That's
that's where I
absolutely
learned a
great.
great amount of my stuff from.
Yeah, no, go for it.
People,
Love it.
black people should check out where they're going to be moving or just where they're going to in general before just hopping in and setting yourself up for failure. Because what I didn't realize was Maine is, I think, 96 or 97% white. And, me back then, I was very naive. I'm like, whatever, like, who cares? Nothing's going to happen. So
Right.
I move up and it's like I start dealing with all sorts of racism. I'm like, what the?
So let me get it straight. So basically, you were in New Jersey, and you were kind of young, so maybe you might have not noticed things, or it wasn't really on your radar, or maybe it was so diverse that there wasn't too much going on personally. Then Pennsylvania, a little worse. Then you got to Maine, and you're like, holy crap! And you could all of a sudden you were like,
I can definitely sense it, like big time. Like, okay, this is not normal. Like, what are people going off about? Like, why?
yeah.
So,
How did when you first went there? Did you like notice one thing like, oh, that's probably an aberration that and then another, then you're like, oh my god, it's like,
well, for me, it started because I was working. I used to unload trucks and everything, a lumping position, if you will.
mhm,
Basically, you unload the trucks, you bring it out to the dock and sort things out, make sure that it's the correct height and width and all that. So I went to the break room. It was for a pretty big company, and there was the one guy, because I forgot to mention, as a lumper, we weren't first party, meaning we weren't like directly part of that main company
you're
that I was
contracted,
at.
kind of like a
Yes,
contract.
we were contracted. Yes.
Okay,
So
got
what ends up happening is I go in the break room. The one non-contracted guy, he was actually part of the main company. He was there. Then it was me, aka third party, and then there was one more guy that was third party, but he was a driver. And let's make a deal was on and all that. I'm just kind of eating like whatever is
yeah.
break time.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen the guy a billion times, the third party driver. I've never had any issues until that day. So he goes in there and starts laughing. I'm like, all right, well, what's so funny? Sometimes people might be laughing, you have no idea. It might be an inside joke or just
Yeah,
they're,
whatever.
they're crazy. Who knows?
Yeah.
So he looks at the other guy, mind you, I forgot to mention they're both white.
Uh-huh.
The one guy that I'm about to explain what he did, he's like, and it doesn't really matter because people think it's always an age thing. That's false. He looked like he was in his like late 60s, early 70s, and then the other guy was in like his 50s, I think, something like that. So what ends up happening is he's laughing, like, what the heck's so funny? He looks at the other guy and says, you want to know who he looks like? Well, here we go. What is he going to say? Like, who the
He's
hell
talking
do I
about
look
you?
like?
He was talking
When
about
he starts, he's talking about me. He goes, oh, he looks like the guy, the black guy from Forrest Gump, and he does a whole lip thing. I'm like,
whoa.
really? Like, wow. So I'm like, whatever. My break time was up. I just kind of shrugged. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of messed up, but let me get out of here. I leave, and then like a minute or two later, after the main first party guy leaves, he
Uh-huh.
goes, "Yo, Jordan, I'm so sorry. I didn't know where he was going with that, so on and so forth."
Hmm.
And I'm just like, it's all right. That was like my first time dealing with some crap like that. So then
And you're this age, and you're like, wow, I've
I
never.
was at the time about 25, 26, something like
Okay,
that.
that's pretty
So
old
it
to have
ends up,
your first time. I mean,
yes.
wow.
So what ends up happening, which made me check him later on psychologically,
Uh-huh.
is he goes, "Hey, did you see what Morgan Freeman said?" I'm like, "No, what did he say?" He's like, "Check it
Uh,
out." He's like, I completely agree with him, and people should stop talking about it. What did he say? So I go home because obviously at there you're working, you can't really do anything
he
on
says
lunch break.
Morgan Freeman says, stop talking about racism and it'll go away.
Yes,
Yeah.
if,
Oh,
if
that's
guys, if we stop, look at the camera. If we stop talking about racism, guys, it'll just really all right. So we're gonna roll with that
okay.
Morgan
Yeah,
Freeman.
right.
Gotcha. Come on, man. Really?
Give me a
If
break.
we
Yeah,
stop
like
talking
that's what's
about
great.
AIDS, HIV, we stop talking about rape, we stop talking about all the negative things in the world, they're gonna go away, right, Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, that's it. Let's see how that's worked so far.
Yep.
Not so much. God,
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
it's ridiculous.
So that's
Yeah.
what. So you're talking about the psychology and how I feel and stuff. That's what makes me question people because it's like you think, oh yeah, they're on my side, and then magically they come out of nowhere. Yo, look at what this one guy said, and either laugh or it's like something you're just like, what the hell are you talking about? If I stop talking about racism or slavery, it's gonna disappear. Gotcha. So
Yeah.
basically, you want me to shut up
In
and
other
just
words,
deal with crap and never talk about it again, so you don't have to worry about it. Like
right, it's our
that's kind
comfort.
of messed up.
Jordan, it's
Yes.
all our comfort.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
to be comfortable. Screw you. Who cares? It's all about us. Yeah. So you got basically shown where these white folks were on the anti-racism continuum.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
like,
Yes.
okay, one's like obviously like barely on it, about to fall off. It's making fun of and saying you look, I think they all look alike. There's all those different stereotypes that he's trying to like bring in. And then there's the next guy who's sorry, realizes it's like wrong,
In
but like,
quotes.
but not so wrong because you really shouldn't be talking about this stuff. And so it's kind of really your fault because you guys talk about it too much. So it's like, oh my ah! So like that's and before you wouldn't have known. See, it's like somebody said, I wish they would wear labels, and I know that's terrible, but I mean, how would you? I mean, I wish people. How do you deal with not knowing who would like basically be a Ku Klux
I'm
Klan?
always on edge because it's kind of like dealing with the cops as a black person. I can't be, oh, he's a good cop. Nope. Always in my head 50-50. He leaves me alone, I leave him alone. I can't determine within seconds if it's good cop and he actually cares about my life. He cares about the fact I'm another human being. I'm not just a black person, but I'm a human being.
Actually, got
Or if
line
he's a
right.
bad cop, he's the race soldier. He's like, oh, this guy's this and that, and I don't care about his life. And because these police, people always think it's the training. I don't care what kind of training these police get. If they are born that way or they are taught that way,
Mhm.
you cannot tell me, oh, he needs to be trained to not kill black people.
You can't
it's already
untrain someone.
installed.
Oh
It's
yeah.
already installed into his hard drive, if you know what I mean. We're talking like
Mhm.
computer terms for my computer literate folks out there. When you install it to your hard drive,
Yeah.
you can't sit there and tell me, oh, well, we just changed. No, you got to get rid of it entirely. But that's up to him. I can't go to his hard drive and uninstall racism.exe or whatever the heck you want to
That's
call it.
actually a great analogy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Jordan, that's a great analogy. You're good. Yeah, it's you can't train someone to act like a human. And
Yeah.
that's what I consider it. And a lot of people are like, oh, angry soccer mom, you're so rude. But to me, seeing your fellow humans as humans is a minimal requirement. And
Yes.
sadly, because of the culture we live in, which is completely based on white supremacy, at every turn, people have these biases that have turned into racial discrimination and horrific things they're unaware of.
Yeah.
They don't even know. They're in denial. Or they know they don't care. They think it's right. That's the way I was raised. Or it's like, oh my God, act like a fucking human. Sorry, I swear.
Yes. No. It's cool. It's your platform. I don't
No,
mind at all.
I'm all about
So
being real. It's like, to me, it's like,
yes.
it's appalling that people would actually think stuff like that and not question it.
Yes.
Because, yeah, I mean, I think all white people, including myself, yes, everybody, including me, hello, yes, everyone's like, no, no, me.
Yeah.
I think, don't hate me for it, but because I don't see racism the way a lot of white folks do, I see it as an inevitable part of being brought up in a culture of white supremacy. Every white person, by definition, from the moment we get born into that little hospital, you see all the doctors are white, all the nurses are white, maybe brown a few, all the housekeepers are black, I'm just saying, in a classic setting, that is what a lot of babies, newborns, have. It's from birth. We're indoctrinated from birth into this order of how things are. And obviously you're, a little baby gaga goo, I just got born, yay. But I'm just saying, we're indoctrinated. And so when I say all whites are racist, I don't mean it like as a put down. I mean it as a fact. I mean, you can't escape from, what do you think of that? Like,
I agree 100%. Like I said to you, as a black person, it's like I grew up and I learned all the stuff, MLK, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. I learned about all the different black figures and abolitionists and all that stuff.
right.
But at the same time, it's like, man, like, what are they talking about? Like, I haven't really experienced any of this stuff. And it's like,
So you didn't experience
what?
it for a long time.
Yeah, so it's different because that's what I keep trying to tell people. It's all fun and games until you yourself go through this, and then all of a sudden you're like
Oh, yeah.
dancing around like, what the heck is
It's
going
real.
on? And yes.
So did you used to think that, like, oh, did you kind of buy into it? Because you're indoctrinated too. I mean,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
man, why do people keep talking about black this and black that? I'm like, why can't we just do whatever? Just move
be.
on,
Yeah,
Just,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
when you're younger, because you really didn't maybe
Because I
see
didn't
or
go through it. I didn't really
yeah,
see it in person. So I was just like, man, like, why do people keep talking about this? I didn't say it didn't exist. I'm just like, yo, why do they keep talking about this?
like they're making such a big deal. It's almost like
Yeah, they're making like a huge deal
they're
about this because
promoting
I
it.
didn't get it. I've heard all the lessons, and then I went to college for a bit, and then
Yeah,
they took
yeah.
us all in, and they're like, "Hey, just making sure you're doing the right thing." Whereas we're black, we gotta do the right thing, and so I'm like, "What?" I'm like 20 something years old. Why are they still talking about this? Like,
Right.
man, what
In
the heck?
2020, right. So you kind
Boy,
of
do I wish I still had some of that though, because I'm like, I could definitely use that now. But I try to stay in touch with everybody.
because why? Tell me why. Because it was nice not. Tell me why. Like, why you say you still use some of that? I'm not sure where you're going because I think I get it, but I don't.
Like, take things for granted. Like the thing that you
Yeah,
could definitely use in the future and the
ignorance
present.
is bliss. Kind of like
When it's there, you're like kind of shrug your shoulders. But then when you don't have it, you could really use it. You're like, oh man, I should have really took this a little bit more seriously, or just kind of
yeah,
appreciate it more.
yeah. Appreciated not having. It's a burden. It's a nice way to put it. I mean, as I said, I feel like systemic racism is a crime against humanity. Calling it a burden is really belittling. But for as an individual, it was this burden you didn't have to have, at least for a while, whether it was through your circumstances or you got lucky. I don't know. Whatever it wasn't part of like your everyday kind of you know, life, conscious life. And now, is it different? I mean, is that, you know, how is it different?
Compared to like how I used to have access to that, I was near more black people, and now I'm not.
Well,
I
yeah,
just
and like,
basically try to keep in touch with everyone. I always try to stay up on my knowledge and everything. I understand I put myself in the situation by moving to a state where there's barely any black people, so I can't really,
yeah, but
oh,
that's
white
blaming the
man,
victim.
I can't blame a white person for that. That was my choice, but at the same time,
Still
I
blaming the
shouldn't have to be subjugated to like my race because I moved to an area and folks are real ignorant and super racist at the same time. Like I shouldn't have
yeah.
to deal with that, regardless of what my view is or what it isn't on racism or discrimination or any of that.
Yeah, it's not your, it's, I'm sorry, we don't blame the victim. It's them. You should be able to move wherever the hell you want. I mean, and that's, but it's hard because I see what you're saying. You're saying, you know, I did move and I didn't realize it, but that's on them. But of course, that's no condolence to you when you're being treated like shit, you know, whatever. So I guess my question is, do you think that, like, you were saying back then, oh, you know, you kind of could move through life without having that really,
That extra added a stress.
yeah, now, is
Yeah.
it always with you, or
Yes, for sure.
that's what I want to
Yes.
ask? Is it
And
all
it sucks, but at the same time, like I keep telling everyone, I would rather have that, but at the same time, be self assured that I know the truth rather than living a lie. Like my friend likes to say, there's people out there, they live in this fantasy world. They only want to see good things. Like you talked about like the Facebook and stuff. If you do, I don't know if you do anymore because you said I guess you got banned or whatever, but
I got banned for
if you
life? Yeah.
yes. So if you do have someone that you know and you look at their Facebook and you see their timeline as they call it, some people they will only post positive things. If that's how people want to live,
Life is,
that's cool. It's kind of like the Matrix analogy. You have the
yeah.
blue pill and the red pill. I forgot which one was which, but if you
Yeah,
take the
me
one
too.
pill, you're in la la land. Basically, you kind of ignore the bullshit, if you will, going on. But if you take the opposite pill, you get knowledge, you realize shit's not all that cracked up what it's supposed to be, but at the same time, you're not in la la land. Like you can either
Right, you're
choose to
living in
live a
reality.
lie or
Yeah,
live the truth. And
right.
I'd rather live the truth, even if it hurts,
Exactly.
because
Me too. I'd
why? What
rather
kind
live
of life is that?
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather live the truth in pain than a lie in bliss, because I really, really value reality and, you know, realness, I guess you could say. And even though it's, I'd rather have somebody tell me the truth if it's going to hurt me rather than tell me what I want to hear and it's a lie. I don't have time for what I call total bullshit in my life. I just
Yes.
don't. When I was younger, I had a lot of BS in my life when I was a little kid, you know, getting raised, and it makes you crazy in a way. I mean, obviously there's no perfect analogy, but in a way it's like you got to see what life was like kind of before, and then when you moved, it was like, so you got to live a little bit more. Like that's what white folks do. They're in a bubble, they're segregated, which you weren't, but they're so segregated from it. The only people they see who aren't white are on TV or in a movie.
Yes. Yes.
That's it. And so they're like completely isolated from reality, or at least as close as one could come to being. And then you moved and you're like, holy shit. So what happened? Like, how was the transformation for you? Like,
So for me, to answer that as best as I can, because that is a bit loaded,
yeah.
I would say because it was a life-changing thing, that's why I am the way I am now.
Mhm.
Like, yes, again, it is stressful, but I'd rather live the truth than live a lie. Like, I don't want to shut myself out because, oh, racism there, so just comply and do all that stuff, whatever the lack of a term is, where they want
Mhm.
you to just deal with it and not actually, like, do anything about it to solve the
Mhm.
issue.
Mhm.
I'd rather not live that way. So it's just more stress, but at the same time, I keep myself on the no because one example is rest in peace to Twan. This was a guy that the same place, but except he was black because I got there before he did, and then it was him like next year, I think. Yeah, the next year.
Mhm.
So I'll never forget. He goes, Jordan. I'm like, what's up? Because we were on the same dock. It was like the cooler dock. He goes, did you hear what LePage said? I was like, what? Who's LePage? Basically, he used to be, thank God, used to be the governor of Maine. He said, yeah, there was these guys coming up here by the name of Shifty, Smoothie, D Money. They come up here, they sell drugs. He says, then they have sex with white women and then impregnate them and leave. I said, what? He's like, yeah, check it out. I'm like, whoa. So I go home. I'm like Googling this and all that. There's a video to this day on Facebook where he says that same thing. I'm like, wow. He called us Shifty, Smoothie, and D Money.
So he's talking about black people?
Yeah, the guy was white. The guy, his name is Paul LePage. I will never forget that man's name.
He used to be like a
governor,
mayor.
Governor of Maine. Yeah, basically, he used to be a politician. He's a Republican. Not like it matters to me, because I think both sides have racist people on it.
Yeah,
Democrats, they're like kind of hush-hush about it.
Yeah.
Like there was some things where Biden got exposed talking about he doesn't want to fund the police and you guys need to get in line. I guess we're going to get out. But anyway, not to get off subject.
No, I got you.
So just to kind of give you an idea of where Paul LePage comes from. What? He really said that on live TV? I'm like, wow. Then I'm like, we reached out to Paul LePage to see if he apologized. He said he meant everything he said. I'm like, wow. Like he really said that on live
me
TV.
Started on politicians apologizing. They're just sorry they got caught. There's no apology.
No, he wasn't sorry at all. He said he meant every single thing he said. I'm like, wow, okay, dude.
Maine Governor Paul LePage, who has endorsed New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for president, is under fire for this remark he just made about drug dealers.
Now, the traffickers, these are people that take drugs. These are guys that are named D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys that come from Connecticut, New York. They come up here, they sell their heroin, then they go back home. Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave, which is a real sad thing, because then we have another issue that we got to deal with down the road.
No comment yet from Christie.
So this is once again the kind of stuff that you have to deal with when you're black. Like, oh man, he said that's kind of messed up. Is he gonna pop? Nope, he doesn't care. He gets his paychecks and stuff at the end of the day. He gets to pass his policies. The marijuana, that was one of the things that he voted. Like people voted for it, the majority. It passed, and then he did everything in his power to basically delay it. Oh well, we need to find out how we're gonna deal with the money part of it. And I'm like, dude, really?
So basically, you have a racist, not you personally, but you proverbially, you have a racist who has impact on your life.
Yeah.
So every decision he makes is based on his ideology of white supremacy. That's terrifying.
Exactly. Yep.
Like,
and I keep telling people that I'm like, so he just said some mean things. I'm like, last time I checked, you weren't black. So how are you going to sit there and tell me that, oh, he just said a couple of mean things? Oh, I'm sorry. Those mean things are affecting people of a very specific group. Yeah. How'd you like it if he came out and flat out said every white man is the devil? Yeah. One person doesn't represent the entire group. Exactly. But once again, when you're black, like, for example, the cops, they always think, oh, he's a thug, oh, he's got some weed, or oh, he has a nice car, he must sell drugs. There's just some sort of stupid-ass, like, stereotype.
Horrible stereotype.
Yeah.
And horrible racism, which if your police is turned into discrimination, and they are acting basically on their horrible beliefs, and they will hurt you. Even if they don't do anything, it's that they could. And that's what people just don't get it.
I keep trying to tell people all the time, I'm like, if you want to have those views, I can't stop you from having those views. You do not belong in any field, any job, anything you want to call where it involves with affecting a large group of people. So for example, if you are a bigot / racist, you should not be a politician. If you want to be that, I can't stop you. Like I used the example before. You have that racism.exe installed on your hard drive. I can't uninstall that. That's up to you to uninstall that and become a better person or human.
Absolutely.
But you keep those views if you want, but you shouldn't be the president. You shouldn't be the governor, the mayor. You should not be no damn police officer. Think about it. You're supposed to be upholding the law, but you have your own little side laws where it's like, oh, this person's black. Oh, I don't like them. I don't want these people near my folks. And
racism internalized, like, overtly, is terrifyingly powerful. And because whites are the majority and do hold power, they should. I'll go as far to say if you're overtly racist and, you know, way, way, way low on the anti-racism continuum, that you shouldn't be near anybody. It's like, it's terrible. You should have no contact with anybody. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing. The impact, just your sense, your distorted sense of humanity is terrifying. But that's not how it is. But this has been fantastic. I think you made so many great points.